Hi, welcome. My name is Blake, and I'm here to share with you the understandings and the truths that I've come across in my own development towards my true self. Now, that is evolving and that's growing, and all I'm here is to share what comes forwards for me, and hopefully it will resonate with you in some regard. With that being said, we're going to explore how to navigate a spiritual awakening in a 4-step process for you today. Thank you. So the first step of what I feel is coming up is, if you're going through a spiritual awakening, you need to find your grounding. Okay, that's your roots and that's your center. Because ultimately, if you've or going through a spiritual awakening, then the ground has very much shifted for you. Your sense of knowing what is up, what is down, what is left, what is right, what is anywhere is just gone out of the window, because ultimately what you understand from a linear perspective, from your mind, from what has been created in the past, and what you understand of who you were is just changed for whatever reason it is, and whether that is big or small is going to be completely individual for you. Now you're going to know for yourself what has happened, the experiences that you've gone through so far that has brought you to where you are, and that's going to be very different for each individual person. Some people are very much going to have come from a place of suffering. It's going to be something that has given way and shifted for the event to have taken place, for the experience to have taken place, and it might be more than one set experience, so to speak. And that being said, equally, it could be something which is quite beautiful, that has allowed you to open up something. It doesn't have to be dramatic and scary. It doesn't have to be dramatic and or hard and complete suffering for an awakening experience to occur. It can be any form of experience, but what is the big thing is it's shifted your understanding of who you are and opened something up which you likely do not understand, that's given way to something greater that you do not understand. So that first step of grounding, okay, find your grounding, your roots and your center. This is because who you are has shifted. What you will want to cling on to has also shifted. That old self of what you would rely on is likely shifted. What you are understanding to be true is shifted. And now you may or may not have been given an understanding, certain answers, certain truths to what you feel you need to move into in terms of your understanding, or you may not have. And that is, it's that loss of where you can put your feet down, which often people will find hard to navigate. And that is linked to your ego. That's linked to your mind and in its need to try and understand the process of what is happening. Okay, in a very physical world, in a physical way of trying to make logical sense, often from a step-by-step process of how you can navigate this experience in a way that brings you back to the baseline of the ego of what it needs to survive. Okay, and that's why the grounding is so important, not to feed your ego as such, but for you to be rooted in the physical, especially if some of the experiences that you're going through is quite profound, and again, logic doesn't come into the picture. But because that isn't the case, if that isn't the case, then your you will try to find a logical sitting to the profound experiences that you are going through, but it won't be in what is best for you in your development and what is best for you in your physical body. Perhaps you are going through certain spiritual awakenings in terms of your development of psychic connections. Perhaps it's to do with your perception of reality in terms of the physical as we perceive it, and the non-physical, and the different dimensional realms. There's no limit to what you could be awakening to. Perhaps it's just your understanding that there is something greater out there, whether you attribute that to God, to Source, to the greater spirit, to spirit, whatever name it is, or perhaps it's just there's something deeper to yourself. There's a deeper search for your true self. Okay, and perhaps that is part of what is coming up. But that's why it's so important to have this grounding. So the grounding basically is what allows us to come back and root ourselves into the physical, no matter how much we are expanding our understanding, expanding our being. And we can do this through different practices. So these practices are what I would call core practices or core exercises. And when you find what works for you, then you can use this throughout your life, and you can use this from day to day. And it's good to build up a practice that even if you don't feel like it is important, okay, even if you feel like, no, I'm fine, I'm loving what's happening, I'm just going up and I'm up and up and up, that's all the more reason to have these grounding practices, because the further up and up and up you go, the longer it can take to come down and to integrate the understandings that come with this exploration. Equally, even if your experience isn't as profound and expansive as what I might be describing, there is still that loss of your footing in your understanding. So having that grounding, it also allows us to bypass the linear understanding, because all you have to do is use a core grounding practice, and that will root you to the present moment. It will root you to your body, and you don't need anything else. You don't need a logical understanding of what is coming through your experience. You just need to actually let go of that need to understand. And you can do that through the grounding. And also with the grounding, you can, just as we're talking about the letting go there, you can also, through that core grounding, through that centering of your being, you can allow other energies to flow. Because again, this is about letting go of that linear physical understanding of what the mind feels it needs, and just allow the experience of what is opening up for you to open, to expand, and to flow through you. You don't need to judge it. You don't need to understand it. And I know that sounds really hard to digest, but if I can't understand my spiritual experience of what's going on, then how do I know what is going on? How can I navigate it? How can I move forwards and start to develop who I am? That's a hard thing to let go of. But your ego and your mind feel they need, and your sense of being, which is what I'm talking about with the ego and the mind, they feel like they need to know. They feel like they need to have an answer. And that is what we need to let go of, because ultimately your ego and your mind are not your true self. And as you develop and as you grow and as knowledge and truths come in, wisdom will grow, and you will start to recognize what is true here. And this is just from my own experience. And if I can give you a gift, it would be to let go of the need to understand, because it doesn't serve you at the end of the day. I'm not saying to not learn and to gain knowledge, because that is paramount to our growth. But through my own experience and from what I know of and understand through a lot of people's spiritual awakenings, is when that side of us has opened up, there is such a thirst for knowledge. There is such a thirst for that growth. And that is ultimately our ego and our being that wants to form and fill into this new place of exploration, in part because of what we need. We now need to expand our identity. We need to fill our identity to understand, for our ego to understand the new ground that is being laid out before us. Because if it doesn't understand what it is, and I'm talking to that false self, if it doesn't understand what it is, then it can't navigate the way forwards, or so it feels, out of fear. So different grounding exercises you can do is a nice simple one is to just close your eyes. It's a simple meditative exercise. And just sit down. It can be good to do in the morning, in the evening before you go to bed, or any time that you start to feel overwhelmed and ungrounded. It can be for a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, so on. And just sit down and just breathe in through your nose, and then out through your mouth or your nose. And just slightly expand the out breath. And just allow yourself a few breaths. And then every time you breathe in, just allow yourself to feel an expansion of light being breathed into your being. You can imagine it breathing in through your nose. You can imagine it breathing in through your heart space, your center, okay? And that's the center of your chest. And then as you breathe out, imagine that light just settling around you. And another similar one. And basically it's trusting what feels right to you. And this understanding with these exercises, it's all about the breath. Okay, and the breath is the core of the connection between our physical and our spiritual beings. So another exercise you can do is, again, just following that same breathing in through the nose. And then as you breathe out, just allow that energy just to sink down. And as you move down and down, following all the way through your abdomen, through your pelvic, your core, through the bottom of your legs, wherever is touching the floor, through your feet, through your bum, just imagine on that out breath, roots spreading out through your feet, through your bum, whatever part of your body. Even if you're lying down, you can do this. Just connecting with the earth. Even if you're high up on a second, third, 10th floor, whatever it is, just imagine those roots going straight through and connecting with the earth. Okay? And then as you breathe in, just allow those roots to absorb the earth's energy. You just have to allow the intention to take place. Don't fall too much into the linear understanding. Don't feel like you have to understand every aspect of it. The intention is what is key. And just allow yourself breathing in, allowing those roots just to absorb the energy. The light can be any color it wants to be. It can be no color. It can just be the sense of absorbing energy. And you can feel it then filling up your body. And you're allowing that energy, that golden energy. Gold is a good color with this. It can be a red energy because that's your root chakra, and that's your grounding core as well. And that's another. Let's not get mixed up, but that's another aspect we can do with these exercises, is doing it from the core, from the root chakra. And just allow that energy to fill your body, all parts of your body. Allow it to run up through your chest, through your arms, through your neck, through your head. And just allow it all across your body, breathing in that energy, breathing out, and as you breathe out, expand those roots deeper and deeper into the earth. And just follow that simple practice. And you can use it from the breath, and equally, you can use it at the base of your spine. The base of your spine. Allow yourself to imagine a beautiful red energy, a red sphere of energy. Okay, and at the base of your spine, that is where your root chakra is. That is what grounds you here on the earth. And just allow that red energy to expand out and down. And you can allow it to expand down straight from your bum to the earth, and equally down through your legs, through to your feet, and down again through the earth. And once you go to those points of the body, you can allow it. It can just be that red, deep red energy. But equally, you can use whatever visualization you want, whether you want to add roots to that once again and incorporate that. And just allow it to anchor you, okay? Allow it to anchor your being. And just breathing in through the nose. And then out through the mouth. And each time you breathe out, just relax your body. And the more you do this, the more aspects you can start to incorporate. So those are good, simple grounding exercises that you can use to start to root you. And then once you start to come back into your body, not saying that you've necessarily left, but again, this is core practices that are good for you to build up, even if you do not feel that you need them. 100%. 100%. And once you start to do this, just do it once a day to start with. And perhaps you can do it in the morning. I want to say twice a day, because morning and evening is good, because you're rooting yourself ready for the day. But then you can also root yourself because throughout the day you might have just gone up and out and lost your sense of self and where you are. So just whenever you feel called, but just start off small and just do it for a couple of minutes. It doesn't matter about your thoughts and everything else that's going on. It's the strength in your intention and your visualization, or using the other senses to help embody the intention there. Now, from those core exercises, of course, there are more. Those are what I would suggest as a grounding. But then ultimately, we can build on more core exercises to help you navigate your awakening experiences. And a lot of the core exercises help us embody the spiritual and the physical. Okay, and a lot of them come through the creativity. And creativity is an energy, ultimately, that is coming from whatever you understand, that greater part of you, that idea of source, God, spirit, whatever. You don't have to label it. You don't have to have a sense of understanding. But if you are here, you know there is something greater that you cannot yet comprehend, perhaps. And that creative energy is what comes through from the universe, wherever it is, and comes through without judgment, without thought. It might come in on specific thought, but it's not thought from the ego. It's not thought from the mind. It is comes from a deeper place, and that creative energy is what allows us to flow, move, and to create on the earth. But it also allows us to connect with that deeper sense of self, that connect with that something greater, and allow that to flow into creation from the spiritual to the physical. And that's true creation. That's true manifesting. That is the truth of what we can allow into being. And when we can connect with that, then we are connecting to the greater part of our purpose. We are connecting to inspiration. We are connecting to something pure that we can ultimately flow with, and that's with those embodiment practices. So those practices that I want to briefly speak about, they can be anything. It could be cycling, mountain biking, it could be running. It doesn't have to be a creative outflow of what you would perceive normally. Yes, it can be painting, it can be dancing, it can be singing, I can't even think of anything else. It can be playing musical instruments. It can be whatever skill you already have. But what we want to do is use those practices to get out of our head and our thinking mind and our ego and into the present moment with what is available to us. So find a practice that resonates with you, okay, and go into it with a open mind, go into it with a smile on your face, and just allow yourself to dive into it. And if you don't necessarily have a creative practice and you don't find yourself to be particularly creative, understand that it really is anything that you can dig your teeth into that that removes you from that logical thinking space. And creativity, of course, doesn't mean that then we have to be without logic in what we are creating. But what we want to do is dive into that embodying practice to remove the logical mind, to allow in true inspiration that we can then carry forth with logic, with intended thought. And as we then move, that is then the doing and the action that we can then start to navigate that and move that into existence. I'm going a bit deeper here, so sorry. Hopefully you are following me so far. Maybe it seems simple, but so that's it. First step, find your grounding. Now, the second step would be to tame the mind. And now we've spoken about it briefly in terms of the ego and your mind and your sense of self, which ultimately, for the largest part, is false. And I'm talking about to understanding your true self in comparison to the egoic self that you have developed throughout your life. Now, if you are going through a spiritual awakening, there is a good part of your awakening process that is probably linked to that loss of your understanding of who you are, ultimately. Because for you to go into an awakening, it's going from the unconscious to the conscious. And that unconscious is largely the programs that you've been running in your mind, the programs that you've been running, that is the patterns that have made you who you are. And a lot of them you will not be conscious of. A lot of them have largely held you hostage. And it is that shift from who you understood yourself to be to who you are essentially becoming, use that word with a good good. Pinch of salt there, becoming. But it is that shift that you have to now renegotiate with your ego, with your mind, to understand who you are. The biggest piece of advice that I can give you is to let go. Let go of the need to understand who you are. In so much to the point of where you can stay grounded in that act of letting go. And ultimately, with your sense of the ego, sense of the mind, sense of the self, you are going to want to take in that knowledge, as I spoke about. That thirst for knowledge is there. And it's important to understand that there is a lot of knowledge that is out there in terms of our spiritual development. A lot of it will weave webs around your understanding. It will take you down into traps, and it can really break you down in terms of who you understood yourself to be and who you are becoming. A lot of it can be perceived as good, it's perceived as bad. And that is all part of the lessons that you will go through as you develop into who you are becoming. And for my own journey and my own development, all I can say is I absorbed a lot of knowledge and when we talk about absorbing knowledge, all it is moving into a sense of remembrance, because you know who you truly are on that deep true self, that level of you that isn't present for most of the time. It knows who you are, and it knows the aspects of reality that you want to dive into. But we have come here to go through certain experiences, and we've come here with in that space of loss and forgetting our true selves. And it really is up to us to navigate the path of who we are understanding ourselves to be, and to learn the lessons that we ultimately have come here to learn, and the experiences that we've come here to go through. But then the knowledge comes at a cost, because, and let me just clarify here, I guess I should be saying more the information, because there is a lot of information out there. That is, that's what the word I should have used in the beginning. There's a lot of information out there, and a lot of it is a load of crap. A lot of it is the knowledge that you should be seeking. There's no should be, but there's knowledge that you ultimately will help you and further you as you develop on this path of becoming, of moving towards the remembrance of your true self. But there will be pitfalls that you will have to navigate, and information that you have to navigate. And that's why it's so important for you to develop your discernment on this journey. And discernment ultimately is the space of stepping into your heart and out of your head. Because your head, your thoughts, your perception of reality is so limited, and it is largely false to the truth of who you are. And you cannot comprehend truth. You cannot comprehend wisdom from the logical mind. You can to a point of what makes sense, but there is a deeper part of you that sits in your heart, that sits in your soul, that it will just it will be right. It will be what feels like a remembrance. It will feel like, yes. You don't have to look deeper than that until it comes up again. So what I would say is, allow yourself to embody that space of discernment. Step out of the head as much as possible, because that's the purpose of what we need, is to tame the mind and recognize, and also just to recognize the boundary of what is us and what isn't. And that can be a lifelong journey. But the more we can start to dive into that, and there are some great books that I can recommend to help you through this, in discerning the boundaries of who your true self is in comparison to the false self, the ego, the lower mind compared to your higher mind. And that will help you navigate the way, that will navigate the path. And so what I've put here is really tame the mind, but I'm really connecting it with the third step, which I'll move into. But so in the West, we've really lost that initiation path, okay? And especially if you're looking at this from a spiritual awakening outside of religion, our path is our own. And that is why it's the importance of opening your heart space and really connecting with what is flowing and what is coming forth to you, the experiences that are presented to you, rather than allowing your logic, your mind, to try and force a path. Because when we are without this initiation process, which is slowly, I want to say, coming back, but in a myriad of ways, in a myriad of forms which are new and expressive because of this open space of unfolding spirituality in the West from an individual standpoint. People who are stepping into truth, who are stepping into wisdom, who are allowing themselves to open up and to channel through the different aspects of becoming and being that we can really walk into as we awaken on this journey. They are bringing forth paths of being and stepping into and learning that will help us to navigate our evolution, our spiritual evolution on your unfolding path. Now, that's not to say that if you may be drawn to certain religious organizations, because there are within certain religions those initiatory practices that can help you navigate it. And it's not to say that we need those initiative practices to walk our life and to step into our truth. Because your path, as it unfolds, as it weaves, will become the initiation, as long as you stay open to your heart and to that discernment and to the truth as it unfolds. And that's fine if you fall into what is false with the ego and your mind, and that is going to provide you with the lessons that you can grow and ultimately step into more of your being. You just may be able to get there in a bit of a quicker path the more you allow yourself to do the work now to open up to your heart and to that space of discernment. And all I would then add is, which I've also said, is, the ego and the mind wants to make sense of things, and the more you can break down that space of what you understand the ego and what you understand yourself to be, the more you can actually step into true purpose and true doing. True doing. But you can actually start to walk your purpose. And you can call it an inner and an outer purpose, but we don't really need to go into that as such right now. So ultimately, taming the mind is letting go of the control of the ego, letting go of what you perceive as the and don't perceive as the false self, letting go of the false self. That is the true taming, because it leaves behind enough of your ego, enough of the mind, which will allow you to navigate the self. Because ultimately, when we talk about the grounding practices, the ego is the form of the physical. That's ultimately what it is. It creates an identity with what we perceive as the physical form, and your identity of the self is perceived through the physical. And then a lot of your ego, your identity, is then built beyond that into what you project out into the world. But the more we can let go of what isn't needed, the more we can start to use and bring the mind into a healthy balance and relationship, where we can step into what I would perceive as the higher mind, and utilize the mind for what it should be, and utilize those layers of the ego, the identified form, to navigate our path in the world as we each perceive it. So then we move on to the third step, and that is to connect with the heart. And that's what I've already spoken about, really, because all these steps will ultimately weave in together. There's no separation in as much as we need. And it's understanding that your heart is your connection to your soul as well. And your soul is the aspect of the true self. And the more we can actually connect with what is present here, the more we can let go of that false self, let go of that false dichotomy that is just holding us in the space of loss, in the space of lack, in the space of suffering, in the space of forgetting who we truly are. And the more we can connect with the heart and allow ourselves to open the heart, the more we can heal our wounds, heal our emotional pains, our physical pains, let go of those limiting thoughts and beliefs, and step into the truth of what is present, eternally present. Now, within this, as I've spoken about, is the need to develop that space of discernment. And the antithesis of discernment would be judgment, really. Because judgment comes from the mind, and through judgment we create more limiting boundaries. But discernment steps outside of judgment, and it cuts through judgment, it cuts through perceived limiting thoughts, and it feels into an experience through the heart. So that's why it's so important to develop that space of the heart and to open your heart, because it is opening that connection with the soul and connecting with the inner and the outer, which is the perception of all that is. So an exercise we could use for connecting with the heart is quite easy and is similar to the grounding, but just take a hand, doesn't matter if it's your left or your right, whatever you feel comfortable with, and just hold it on the heart space. And then I just want you to smile and just relax, let your shoulders drop. And then, just like I said earlier, just breathe in through your nose and just visualize yourself breathing into your heart space, just allowing energy coming from the outside and absorbing it through your heart space, and filling your heart. And then on the out breath, just allow it to expand out in front of you, out behind you, filling your body, And it can be again any color that you feel comfortable with, but this can be a good white light, a beautiful white light. And then just breathing in more of that beautiful energy. And just keep holding your hand on there, and you might feel your hands start to heat up. And then just breathe out, expanding that energy. And just allow yourself. This is using your mind, your higher mind, because you are utilizing form through intention. And that intention is, I am bringing in this beautiful energy from all around you, and I am on the out breath expanding it, expanding my heart energy, and you're expanding it through the field of your being. And that field of your being just wants to naturally expand. And it's our lower mind and our egoic self that ultimately limits the possibility of that expansion, because we have so much junk that is around us as well, whether it's old emotions that we're holding on to, whether it's learnt patterns, old traumas. It's all there, just holding us where we are. But when you do this practice, it's okay also to be, if emotion comes, just allow it to flow. Don't resist it, because as soon as you put in any form of resistance, that's the mind coming in. Just focus, allow yourself to smile. You can smile and cry, you can smile and feel at the same time. You can smile and breathe, you can smile, you can breathe and cry, and breathe and simmer. Doesn't matter what emotion is present, just allow it to flow and release. Relax the body and just connect with what is. Just focus on the breath. Just focus on the breath and the visualization through your heart. And you can do that for 2 minutes, you can do it for 5 minutes, it's up to you. Ultimately, that does allow us to connect with our heart. It allows us to, as we move on to the 4th step, it connects with our being. And that being is our true self. And the 4th step is being, not doing. And the reason that this is the 4th step is because if there's one thing, oh my gosh, if you could let go of the need to learn, let go of the need to find the knowledge of your spiritual advancement, let go of the need to do, and just enter the space of being with the present moment, with the now. My gosh, you would come into knowledge naturally. You wouldn't need to search for through books. You wouldn't need to search on YouTube for other people and how to navigate this and that. And you would naturally start to release old wounds, old emotions. You would start to heal yourself. You would start to grow, and you would move through greater states of awakening naturally through your being. And it's a hard thing to do. It is a very hard thing to do, to let go of the doing. Because that doing is your identity again. Because the space of being with the present moment is deaf to your false self. It's deaf to all aspects of who you understand yourself to be. And it is life to the eternal present moment and life to your true self, to your soul, to that deeper aspect of who you are eternally. And true presence gives you the keys to the kingdom. It gives you the keys to recognizing who you are. And if you can enter that space of true presence and allow yourself to come into knowing that all we ever have is the present moment, is that space of now, then you can move into that true sense of self, that true being, and know who it is that you are within that space of all that is. And you would start to understand that there is no other moment than what is now. The idea of the past, the idea of the future, are just projections that your ego has used for better and for worse to help you navigate life to this point. But they are projections, because if you allow yourself to think of the past, doesn't matter what experience it is, doesn't matter in the slightest. It could be a memory of someone who has passed away, and you perhaps you feel regret because of that memory and the experience that you shared, and perhaps you wished it was another, it happened differently. All of that is a projection, and you can hold on to the regret, but you will only hold on to the regret as long as you hold on to the past experience. Because ultimately, the experience that you went through is past and gone. And it is only when you bring it back to the present moment that you are, one, no longer within the present moment of the experience of what is unfolding around you, which is where the magic is, but you're holding on to the past that no longer exists. Every time you move into a memory, you are just creating a projection of a memory that is no longer true to life. And it doesn't matter what form of experience that we move through, but those past experiences don't serve us anymore. And I'm not saying to let go of the past. I'm not saying to let go of the experiences that have made you who you are. But the more you allow yourself to stay in the present past, as I call it, the more you are out of what is here in the present moment. And you are ultimately holding on to energy that is being tied up in those experiences. That regret that you're holding on for that experience, you're not allowing yourself to move on from it. And therefore, part of your being is being held energetically to that. You're carrying the crap of that. So you can let go of the past and let go of the attachment to the past, and still have the past being a memory, the past being there, but not being attached to what the experience of it, because it's ultimately a past self that is no longer present within who you are, because you are not the self that you were that moved through that experience. And ultimately, the self that you were that moved through that experience was largely made up of a false sense of self that you have created throughout your life. Equally, when we project that into the future, we project it with our wants, our desires of how we need to see things unfold, how we need to see things come into fruition, how we want our goals to be, how we want our life path to unfold. And these are all projections, once again, for something that is doesn't even exist. Our wants exist. Our desires exist. And they only exist in and of the mind of the ego. They don't truly exist. They only exist as long as you keep them in a state of false existence. I don't know why I need to do that when I say false. It's false. They don't exist only as long as you keep them in that state of false existence. So anything that you then decide to project into the future is just, again, a projection of a false reality. And you are taking your attention, your awareness of your true existence, your true self exists forever present in the core, in the grounded sense of self of where you are in the ever-present moment. So as soon as you project into the future, you are just taking your attention, taking your awareness into a projection of something that is never going to play out anywhere near what it is you project it like. If you want a goal of, let's say you want to make £100,000 or dollars, whatever it is, at the end of the year, and you've got this way and this logical path that is unfolding in your head. If I do this and I do this and I do this and I do that and I allow myself to go through this and fold upon this and do that, then I will make $100,000. How is that? That has never worked out in terms of your goal. Even if you move towards your goal and you achieve your goal, it never comes about in the space that you've created and projected in your mind. Even if you are running a race and you project that you are going to get first place, in your mind, as you cross the finish line, before you've even started, and you're projecting in your mind that you have crossed the finish line, that projection of you crossing the finish line will not be the experience that you go through as you cross the finish line in first place. Because ultimately, our experience is here to unfold. Yes, you can use intended thought, and that's another form of manifesting, but which we're not even going to go into, but that is it's a projection that doesn't ultimately serve you, not unless it's come from the higher mind, which for 99% of the cases it isn't. And I'm not saying that we need to eternally stay within the space of being and not doing, but it is that space of being that allows us to come into the understanding and knowing of our true self. Anything outside of that is a gradual expansion of knowing through a lot of trial and error, a lot of expanding into a false sense of self, a lot of giving up what we feel we should be doing, and all of this can be cut through and just allowing us to go straight to the source through that presence of being. And that is where that inspiration comes through. That is where inspired thought comes through, where we can start to utilize the higher mind, and we can start to then move through into action and doing but through inspired thought, through inspired doing and inspired action. So hopefully those 4 steps help you on your spiritual path, your awakening. I will perhaps put up another video in terms of how you can navigate the deeper parts of a spiritual awakening, things like the dark night of the soul, and the more heavier aspects. But for now, if you utilize, just to briefly go over, your grounding, finding that core practice, taming the mind, allowing yourself to let go of the ego, let go of what is holding you into this false sense of self, connecting with the heart and connecting with the true self and the soul, and being, not doing. The more you can follow those 4 steps, that will give you a framework for you to start to expand into your true self, expand into a space of knowing and remembering, and allow you to navigate this spiritual awakening and step into who you are becoming. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a blessed day. Like, subscribe, allow me to give you more content, and ask me questions. Leave comments below, and if there's anything that you want me to cover, then please let me know. Thank you.